Welcome to Fright Flicks. I'm Nate,
I'm Jamie.
and this is the Till Death Do Us podcast review of the movie Last Shift. Last Shift is my favorite kind of movie, the low budget independent horror movie. This is my bread and butter. I will watch 20 indie horror movies just to find that one gem. But this is that gem. I love Last Shift. I'll just get that out of the way right now.
I loved it too. It was creepy and atmospheric, and it was everything that we love about horror movies.
Absolutely. A little background. This movie was released a year ago in October of 2014 over in the UK under the title Paimon, King of Hell. Paimon is this Manson-like cult leader that figures prominently into the movie. However, it wasn't released in the States until October of this year. Right now, it's available on DVD and Blu-ray for those of you who use those outdated modes of entertainment. It's also available streaming. You can download it to your Kindle, your computer, your PS3, your Xbox, whatever. This movie is out there. And because it was just released here in the States, I'm considering this a new release.
Most definitely.
And
it just came up on our radar because we live in America and we're very Amero-centric.
Yeah, it never existed before now because I'm not British, I'm American. It's on DVD here in America, and because of that, it's earned a place on my best horror movies of 2015 list.
Easily.
Okay, so about the movie itself. Last Shift involves the first night on the job for a rookie cop who is given the thankless task of overseeing the evidence locker at the old police station. Due to a lot of due to some inexplicable events the last few months. They've decided to move to a new building, so they've transferred all the personnel. There's just some hazardous materials that need to be picked up by the hazmat team, and one rookie cop is tasked with watching the place. As soon as she is alone, she starts hearing things, she starts seeing things, she starts picking up pieces of the last couple of years, which also ties into the death of her father and the night that a cult leader named Paimon was captured by the police and brought into the station. The events of that night are still echoing through the halls, and
Literally and figuratively.
yes, and the place is just crawling with supernatural activity.
It gives you, from the beginning, it gives you this feeling of being alone in a creepy place. You feel there's an energy to this empty building, and just this freaky stuff starts happening to her. I lovingly deemed this movie Night of the Living Office Supplies, because it seemed like just, you never think that something like a stapler moving or cabinet doors opening on their own would be scary, but it totally is. It works in this movie.
All horror movies, more or less, follow these protocols, and you could say that in haunting movies the ghosts have their own protocols, but they always start very gradually. There are weird noises, there are
Things out of place.
and then over the course of the movie, over the course of the night, everything ratchets up. What I loved about the Last Shift was that these initial getting to know you moments from the ghosts and our heroine, they weren't boring. They crackled. It was, you knew something even worse was coming. There were great little atmospheric moments in the first act that really started to build, and of course this is the goal for all horror movies, but for me, a lot of first acts of horror movies are really flat. It's something you just have to sit through until you get to the good stuff. For me, in this movie, there was good stuff right off the bat. Like, it was building. And then when you get to the second act and the third act and more ghostly reveals, they just all paid off so well.
This movie was full of jump scares, which I, as a high-strung caffeine addict, they pay off for me immediately. A jump scare will always get me. 99.9% of the time, I'm good for a jump scare. This movie not only had the jump scares, it had these organic, built from the ground up, really sort of terrifying moments. And
yeah, yeah, you would jump, but then after the jump wore off, after the initial surprise, you're still thinking, holy shit, that was really scary.
Exactly. It wasn't cheap. It didn't sort of just, it was a cat that knocked something over. That was all that it was. It was not cheap at all. It earned every scare that you got.
Yeah, and there were a lot of them.
Absolutely.
Something that I would like to give the movie special credit for. I can't say that it's a wholly original idea. I can say that I've never seen it used so effectively in a movie before. Was, okay, this makes sense. You can only see the ghosts when our hero, the rookie, can't see them. So when you're seeing a shot from her perspective, you see a chair moving. But when it flips to the reverse shot and the chair moves behind her where she can't see it, now you can see the ghost sitting in the chair spinning it. They use this several times. She's being followed by this weird demonic chick who has really bad scoliosis, the way she's crawling and walking. And from the one angle you can see her nipping at the rookie's heels, and then you flip to the reverse angle, what she sees, and there's nothing there. They use it several times. They don't use it too much, but every time they use it, it gave me chills.
My sort of gold standard for a horror movie is if it makes Nate startle. Now, like I said, I am a high-strung caffeine addict. It doesn't take much to make me startle. Also, I am not as enmeshed in horror as he is. He has been watching horror probably as long as I've been alive.
Horror's my thing.
So, and I love horror, but again, it's not part of my narrative as a human, as it is to him. So if a movie can make him jump, I know that I have every right to be scared, and I am okay with that.
Yeah. But jumps, to paraphrase Mac, jumps are easy.
I'm going for gasps.
Right. And this movie did have jumps, but I also think it's a scary movie. And that's the reason that I'm so thrilled about Last Shift, is that it's old school.
Mm-hmm. In the best possible way.
It's not, and in the best possible way, it's not overly concerned with being clever, with trying to outsmart you, with trying to wow you with camera tricks or wild special effects or plot twists. It wants to be scary, and it is scary, and it just makes me so happy as a horror fan. It's a legit, straightforward horror movie that wants to scare. It wants to be a pants shitter, and it's a pants shitter.
And I think that it does a really good job of not always letting the audience know what is real and what is not. Because again, as this cop, our heroine, as she's sitting there and dealing with all of these supernatural happenings, she finds herself not really knowing maybe what is real and what is not. And as the viewer, I couldn't tell you what quote-unquote really happened versus what didn't, but it doesn't matter.
It doesn't matter because it was scary.
Exactly, it doesn't matter, but again, I can't tell you what maybe she was hallucinating about versus what, again, this demonic sort of presence was putting in her brain versus what quote-unquote actually happened in the physical world.
Now, we're skirting the edge. This is a non-spoiler review. Everything we've said, hopefully it's going to get you hyped up to see the movie. We don't want to spoil the movie for you.
No, we're hoping you go watch it. It needs to be seen by you now.
And to self-correct a little bit, I said that it wasn't concerned with being clever. That doesn't mean that it isn't a smart movie, because yes, it's scary, but the narrative throughout is pretty strong.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't want to say twists. The developments in the story are all good and keep you interested in the actual story itself. Which is a bonus for a scary movie, honestly, because if it's just scary, that's good enough. Now, it's not perfect because the more you think about that story, there are a couple of holes in it.
One or two things that I would have liked to seen done differently, but those are. I mean, I'm really having to scrounge for those because those one or two things, in no way, shape, or form, take away from the movie. It's me trying to be critical and trying to take this review with a grain of salt and not just honestly, fawning all over this movie, which I could easily do.
The only thing that really jumps out at me is the homeless guy. As I was saying to you last night after we finished it, there either needed to be less of the homeless guy or more of the homeless guy, because there was enough of him in the movie, it seemed like he had more of a purpose, or there was something coming with him, a development, and it didn't seem to play out like that. So, not really sure ultimately his role in the movie and how important it was. So, yeah, that's my only real, I guess, note.
I agree. I would have liked to have seen that done differently. And also, I think that perhaps when she was on the phone with the cop in the other station, because again, she's alone. She's cut off. They've rerouted all 911 calls away from this police station to the new police station. So she's having to consistently go through them. And I feel like at one point he just lays it all out for her on the phone. And I felt like that was a little convenient. I guess I can see to move the plot forward.
You know, what's funny, though, is that there's actually a double whammy. It did seem a little convenient that he laid it out, but that was also the same phone call where in the middle of him saying, oh, let me tell you the horrific backstory of the building you're in.
Exactly.
And she's like, something came up, I gotta go.
Yeah.
And she jumps off in the middle of his illuminating story that's like, oh, let me explain everything that's happening to you. But once again, as you said, that's sort of nitpicking a little bit.
I'm trying to find things to be, I guess, critical about in order to balance my review, because I could just as easily sit here and fawn over this movie as I have done. I've done on Twitter. If you follow me on Twitter at WifeyKnifey, you'll see that I fawn over this movie. I've tweeted about it. I've recommended it to all of my friends who like horror. So I'd like to recommend it to all of my podcast friends who like horror. Please listen, and please watch this movie.
Yes. It's a scary movie, and bottom line, it's scary. So any sort of like minor quibbles I have with details of the movie come out in the wash, because it gave me exactly what I wanted as a horror fan. On the scale of 1 to 10, Last Shift gets an 8 out of 10, and I consider it to be one of the best horror movies of 2015, ranking up there alongside such other low-budget indie horror gems as Late Phases and We Are Who We Are. Out of scale of 1 to 10, how would you rate the movie?
Well, my hard ass of a husband won't let me give half scores. This movie is skewing closer to a 9 for me, but I guess if I had to assign a number hard and fast, I'd give it an 8 as well.
But you want to give it an 8.5. That's what you were saying.
I really want to give it an 8.5, but you're a hard ass and you won't let me.
Okay, this one time, I'll let you.
Aw, listen to you. Mm-hmm. You're going soft on me in your old age.
Yeah, I am getting up there. All right, so an 8 from me and an 8.5 from the wife. Special shout out, I don't believe I've mentioned his name, but the success of Last Shift really comes down to one guy. Anthony DiBlasi is the director and the writer, and this movie pops so hard because the story is good, so he gets props as a writer, but the atmosphere, the style, the presentation, the scares, not that it's the world's best special effects, but the special effects are perfectly utilized. And the bad guys, the ghosts, look scary as hell. As a director, this guy gets top marks. And this movie was great. I'm super psyched about DiBlasi's next movie.
He's also very nice on Twitter. He tweeted to me, which, I mean, no big deal, but he did, and literally tens of people have seen my tweet from that. So
Tens.
Tens of people. Also, I just wanted to say, the people who played the Payman family, y'all scared the shit out of me. You were sufficiently creepy and maniacal, and you kind of made the Manson family look like the Brady Bunch.
You know
so
what?
Kudos.
That is a great point. They're obviously Manson family inspired, but they're so good and they're so scary, especially in their final ghost forms.
Oh, yeah.
And the backstory about the King of Hell, like who ran hell before Lucifer was thrown out of heaven, like it's all so cool. I don't want to like minimize it by comparing it to the Manson family.
No, it's the mythology was on point, but it wasn't.
Like
the
I want to
focus.
see, like I
would see more Payman family movies.
I would totally be psyched for a Last Shift 2 or,
like a prequel.
You know what? Overseas it was released as Payman King of Hell. Maybe they could run with that because as soon as I said it I realized Last Shift 2, you can't have that. That's so stupid.
I tried to swoop in with the assist and tell you that
No,
it
I'll
needed to be a prequel.
I'll call myself out on the stupidity, but let's just ditch the Last because this was just the American title.
No, like I said, I would be down to see a Payman family prequel movie. I think that there's so much rich soil there. You've got a great mythology set up. Run with it, man.
Yeah. So yes, we're past Halloween, but it doesn't matter. October is year-round. It's always a perfect time for a great indie horror movie. The Last Shift is that. Check it out. Follow us on YouTube, by all means, at Frightflix, where 5 to 6 days a week we come at you with new reviews, new material. You can follow me at NateFlix with an X on Twitter and Facebook. My wife here is at Wifey Knifey.
That's me.
But if you search for Knifey Wifey, she'll turn up.
Yeah.
Her and Chief Wiggum.
I go by both. Well, thank you for listening. Enjoy